Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Snakebite. We have a lot of pages up here, so we have a lot to cover for you. Let's roll that intro first. The men's basketball team has had an eventful last week, taking on who I would call the best team in the country in the #2 Nova Southeastern Sharks before looking to avenge their road loss to St. Leo on Senior Day. So let's get into the first game mentioned against Nova and what was one of the best games of the season. In the matchup against Nova Southeastern, the high-powered offenses of each team shined early and often, with each side trading blows in the fast-paced first half that found the Sharks up 55-49. In the first half, Alex Steen controlled the game, went in, posting a double-double in the first half alone, thanks to extremely strong offensive rebounding. Steen's rebounding was no match for the Nova Southeastern half-court defense, though, as they forced 10 Florida Southern turnovers, scoring 18 points off of them, padding MJ Araldi's stat line as he had 18 first-half points, despite poor shooting from the perimeter. When the second half came around, so did the Mocs defense, holding Nova Southeastern to multiple scoreless stretches with major contributions from the lineup of Peyton Gerald, Dominic Denny, Christian Feyerbergs, Amari Miller, and Steen. This lineup got the Mocs close until the final 2 minutes when the Sharks were ultimately able to pull away despite big buckets from Joe Moon IV. In the loss, Steen had his way with 24 points and 14 rebounds, with 5 other Mocs finding double figures in the 101-95 loss, defined by the Mocs' season-high 21 turnovers and Nova's 62 points in the paint and 30 off of turnovers. Florida Southern then took on St. Leo on senior night, looking to avenge their overtime loss we previously mentioned at St. Leo, and they did, with the Mocs striking early and often. In this one, it was all Florida Southern, with senior Peyton Gerald dominating, dropping a career high of 32 points to pair with his 9 minutes in just 29 minutes of play. Booth and Steen also found 20-plus points on the night, with Steen pulling down 16 rebounds to pair, putting him at an average of 15 rebounds per game over the last 3. The Mocs will look to return to their winning ways against Rollins and PBA on the road to bolster their regional resume, as well as trying to secure the #2 seed in the SSC tournament.
The #4 ranked Florida Southern baseball team traveled to Melbourne this past weekend to take on Florida Tech for their first conference series of the year. The Mocs batch struggled in the Friday series opener as they could only put together 3 hits in the 0-2 loss. After the humbling loss, the Mocs would come out of the gates hot in the first game of Saturday's doubleheader as they scored 9 runs on 12 hits, with Grant Thurlman and Jevin Relaford's multi-hit efforts leading the way. The momentum from the 9-2 Game 1 win would carry over to the second game of the doubleheader as the Mocs scored 3 in the first inning. Starting pitcher Jordan Fox appreciated the run support and went 4 in the third innings, only giving up 1 run in his second appearance after returning from Tommy John surgery. The Mocs would continue to add on to their lead thanks to Grant Thurlman's 4 RBI effort. The final score of that one was 7-4, as the baseball team will win their first SSC series of the year. They will be back in action this Friday and Saturday at home in a 3-game in-conference series versus Barry University.
The #4 women's lacrosse team took down the #8 St. Leo Lions 17-12 to improve to 2-0 on the season. The pairing of Danielle Majdej and Gianna Murphy had huge games with 4 goals each. It was no shortage of offense for either side, but especially for the Mocs, as Abby McFerrin put up a hat trick with 2 assists in the matchup as well. The Mocs built a quick lead, nearly blanking the Lions as they scored 5 unanswered goals before St. Leo scored at the end of the quarter. Cassidy Miller scored her first collegiate goal in the second quarter as the Mocs took an 8-5 lead into half. Hannah Hale, Hannah Giron, Murphy, and Majdej led the way as the Lions were outscored 5-3 heading into the final period of action. The Mocs closed the game, outscoring 4 goals in the final quarter to hold off the Lions, securing the second win of the year for Riley Rittberg as she had 10 saves in the win. The women's lacrosse team will have some time off before they take on Anderson University on March 2nd, continuing their 4-game homestand to open the season.
The #13 men's tennis team had a busy week, taking the court 4 times in 5 days. The Mocs started off the week taking on Palm Beach Atlantic, winning 7-0 in their first SSC matchup of the year. After the dominant performance against the Sailfish, the Mocs kept rolling when they took the trip to Orlando, taking on Bates College, also sweeping them 7-0. In the dominant win, Onar Turgott and Leon Burchanan both secured their first collegiate wins, with both winning in 2 sets in singles play. Florida Southern then had more of a challenge as they took on number 12, Embry-Riddle, in Daytona Beach, where the Mocs struggled in doubles play, losing all 3 matchups. They looked to turn around in singles as Sam Frizzelli and Bosco Boscovich won their courts, but it wouldn't be enough as Embry-Riddle would win the final 3 matches, securing a 5-2 victory. The Mocs will be back in action as they take on Michigan Tech at the Winey Warden tennis courts on February 25th. Be sure to check fscmocs.com for results.
And unfortunately, the skid continues for women's basketball, who lost to nationally ranked Nova Southeastern 38-77, the second largest loss ever at home and the most ever to a Division II opponent at home. In this one, the Mocs didn't have a single double-digit score in a game where they scored the Tide's 7th fewest points ever. They looked to bounce back on senior night versus St. Leo, a team the Mocs defeated on the road in a battle for the final spot in the SSC tournament earlier this year. But despite a strong start to the game, they fell apart in overtime, losing another one-possession game in SSC play, their 7th straight. They will be on the road for their final 2 regular season games, including a matchup in Winter Park tomorrow night, where they'll hope to find a way to sneak back into the SSC tournament.
The men's lacrosse team battled hard against the receiving votes Flagler College team, forcing overtime on a last-second goal, but ultimately falling short on February 21st, with the game ending in overtime 9-8. Maddox Walton and Nolan Teague scored 2 goals each, with Jacob Chiz continuing his dominance in face-offs. The game ended in heartbreak for the Mocs, with Flagler winning a face-off in overtime, setting up the game-winning goal. The Mocs were able to rebound as they found themselves in the win column with a 9-8 victory versus Concordia University Irvine. Keeper Michael Simone made 14 saves in the win, with defense being a big part of the victory. Jacob Chiz went 12 for 19 in the face-off battle and tallying a goal in the win. Concordia battled back late, scoring 3 goals in the 4th, but the Mocs held on, getting their first win of the season. Florida Southern will head on the road as they take on Belmont Abbey in North Carolina on March 1st. For results, check fscmocs.com for live stats and recaps.
The softball team is looking to climb their way back into the season as they were able to pick up their first win since the first series of the season. In a competitive series against Florida Tech, the Mocs started off with a strong showing in the circle from 𝙏𝙃𝙀, who had a complete game, allowing just 1 run. Unfortunately for the Mocs, they were shut down and shut out despite the efforts of Kate Michael, who was the lone Moc to tally a hit in that one, hosting 2 in the competition. Aiken and Michael look to continue their strong performance in the Friday game in the first game of the doubleheader Saturday, and Michael did, hitting her first career home run to start the game for the Mocs. This was their first homer of the season and 1 of 2 runs to score in the first inning, the most all season in the first inning of play. The Mocs then went back and forth with the Panthers, and due to late surges in regulation and extras, the Panthers triumphed 16-10. After the offensive explosion in the first game of the doubleheader, both teams came back to earth, but the Mocs came out on top, winning 2-1 thanks to strong showings in the circle from Kayla Hickey, who pitched a complete game, allowing just 1 run with 5 strikeouts. They will return to action tomorrow night for a doubleheader versus Wilmington University, a team that won the East Super Regional last year and fell in the national tournament.
The number 12 men's golf team competed in the 2025 St. Leo Invitational last week, with Colton Swartz staying hot, leading all competitors heading into the second day of competition, with Florida Southern in second. Swartz maintained his position, winning his 2nd straight tournament, but the Mocs slid on the second day, falling to 3rd overall, behind the host St. Leo and number 8 Lee. The men will head to the West Coast as they compete at the Las Vegas Desert Classic in Nevada on March 2nd through the 4th. The women's golf team was also in action this past week in St. Augustine for the World Golf Invitational hosted by Flagler College. The Mocs made a 2-spot jump in the final day of play, securing a 3-way tie for 8th, with Clara Gimple leading the way for the Mocs, finishing tied for 13th to close out the tournament. They returned home during our production time to host the Lady Moc Classic at the Grasslands Golf and Country Club, and the second day of play teed off this morning. Results are on fscmocs.com.
This past Saturday, both track teams traveled just down the road to the University of Tampa for the Tampa Spartans Open Track Meet to kick off the outdoor season. The first event of the day for the Mocs was the 1500, where the women's team started strong with junior Caitlin Beery finishing in 4:49, good for 5th overall in the competition and a new personal best. that in the 3,000 meter race, the woman saw a strong performance from junior Rachel the Hawk Hockenberry, who ran 10:23 over the 3K distance, the 4th fastest outdoor time ever. The event of the day on both sides was the 5K, with 2 new records being set. Starting with the women, senior Emma Musante ran the race of her life in the Elite 5K under the lights, crushing her SSC opponents, setting a new school record. She broke her own with a time of 16:57. With this time, she not only became the first Lady Mock to break 17 in the 5K, but also claimed a provisional qualifying time. Then on the men's side, there were more great performances, with Caleb Brady kicking off the night in the men's 1500, running 4:02. After Brady, things started heating up for the Mocs, with the Elite 5K taking place later that night, where Elijah de la Cerda ran 14:31, claiming 2nd overall and running the 6th fastest time in outdoor history. Following close behind him was junior Christopher Colavita, coming in at 14:33, and just behind him, Eli was so close. He broke his own freshman record for overall and Bryson Yamnitz's outdoor freshman record, running a time of 14:34, placing 4th overall. The track team will compete on March 7th for the Tampa Spartans Classic next week. And that'll be it for this week's edition of the Snakebite. We didn't mention beach volleyball, but they did have a rough showing over the last 2 games for them. Weren't able to squeak out wins against in-conference opponents, but they'll have some more coming up soon. And another thing, we mentioned Emma Musante having a huge one, but so did Alex Steen and Swartz, all of them getting SSC Player of the Weeks for their respective sports. A lot of things to be excited about. And Gavin, there's some more players who were selected to conference teams.
Yeah, and Will Marshall and Michael Wolcarl both got selected to the College Hockey South Division II All-First team. So exciting honors for them as they head into next season.
Yeah, huge week for Florida Southern sports, and don't worry, it is not slowing down. We'll have everything you need to hear, and make sure to check FSCMocs.com and the SSC Digital Network for all your Mocs games and news.